Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, I hope you enjoy it and I hope you consider subscribing. For those of you guys who've been following along with the series here, I mocked up some of the interior in here. It's just loosely in right now because I'm starting to think about where I want to be locating all of the different electronic devices so I can design and build the wiring harness for the car. To help with that, I actually had picked up one of GM's Connect and Cruise wiring harness solutions. I picked this up quite a while back, and I picked it up for a lot less money than what they're offering it for right now on Jegs, which is around $1,500. So I wanted to walk through the harness, walk through what all is included, and really kind of give you guys an honest review of what's included, what's not included, what are the things to watch out for, if it's right for you, and is it worth the money. Before I go through the layout and construction quality of the wiring harness, I do want to talk about what else is included in the kit. You get GM's E67 ECM, you get the drive-by-wire throttle pedal here, which does include this universal bracket, which does not sit flat, which is a little bit annoying, but that's okay because I don't think anyone really uses them anyway. It includes two oxygen sensors here. These are in the car right now. It includes two oxygen sensor mounting bungs, which I used a different set that I had laying around. It also includes the MAF sensor, so mass airflow sensor, which needs to be installed in your intake. And it actually comes with an aluminum boss that needs to be welded to the intake here. They do not provide any kind of bolt-in mass airflow sensor solution, so you have to have some means of welding aluminum, or you need to buy something that will let you put your MAF into your intake. So my first major criticism of the kit is the instructions that are provided. These are available online. I highly suggest reading them before you purchase the kit, because if you expect that the OEM provided instruction set are going to answer any questions you might have about swapping your engine or what you need to do to finish everything out, it is pretty basic. There is not a lot of information included. There is not a comprehensive wiring diagram, which kind of bothers the engineer in me. And it does just kind of give you some really basic high-level things without really going into the details of, how the things work. And I'll talk about that as I'm going through the harness as well. So getting right into the harness here, this is the fuse and relay panel, which is supposed to power everything on the system. It does include two posts here, which are fused for connecting anything you want to connect to the power supply, and then your main battery power source goes on this post here. It's kind of big, it's kind of clunky. It normally has a big cover on the back, but these big orange wires actually stick out from the housing of the panel. The panel is like cut out here and here, and these big wires stick out, which really bothers my OCD, that if this was in the engine bay and you see that, it looks really kind of silly, especially for an OEM provided piece here. There is room for expansion if you wanted to, but I don't know how it would affect your warranty for the product. This is the cover for it. It comes all nice and labeled with what everything is. It doesn't include any kind of pinouts of to where anything goes, and there is no kind of explanation of where everything goes for the power distribution module in the instructions either, which is a little bit annoying. In case you have any problems down the road that need troubleshooting, you kind of have to do it on your own. Another thing I'll mention, I've had this for a while now, and it has not been in the car, and the sticker's already peeling. The next thing on the wiring harness is this bulkhead connector. So this is a completely optional connector that GM provided because they thought that it would have some useful connections for anyone who's trying to integrate this into their car. So this has connections here for GM LAN, which is GM's CAN bus network. So if you want to run like a CAN bus dash or something like that, a device like that, this lets you do that. The instructions don't include any kind of guidance about CAN bus protocols or speed or how to actually connect to it. So I'm imagining that it's really plug and play, or it's something that you just kind of have to know because they do not provide very much information in the instructions about the CAN network. They have a fused ignition and fused constant battery power on this, which is nice. They've got a spare mill lamp on this, which is pretty handy. And then there's a few different outputs for vehicle speed. And then they have another one for the tachometer, so engine speed, which is, I think it's a 2 pulse per rev setting, which you're gonna have to make sure with your tachometer that you'll be able to interface with a 2 pulse per rev. ECM connectors, I can't leave well enough alone, so I removed the back shells. You'll see with how involved this whole harness really is, most of the pins for these connectors are not populated, and that's because the ECM has been really simplified and kind of stripped down. So really, if you wanted to make something yourself, you really could, and there really aren't that many connections, so don't get freaked out too much when you see, you know, this whole layout. There's really not that much to it. Another thing, you'll notice that this section of harness is incredibly long. So for both the fuse and relay panel, which is this wire here, and then for this to go to the ECM, this is a really long stretch of harness. So depending on where you're planning on installing the ECM, you're probably going to have to coil up a lot of this harness or try to tuck it or hide it somewhere. Or if you're going to do like a bulkhead connection, you're going to have to find somewhere along the harness to cut, then run your bulkhead, which would also most likely, I would imagine, void your warranty. So it's pretty common with the way that this is laid out that you wind up putting the ECM here and the fuse and relay box like here, or if you tuck it in the front of the fender, then you can hide the harness in the fender. But I think before you buy the harness, you should have some idea on if you're going to have a place that you can coil this up or hide this, or if you're going to cut this and splice every single connection to try to shorten it, which would be a lot of work. So moving down the harness a little bit more, we've got the knock sensor here for the passenger side, and then the crank sensor, which is the passenger side. Both of these are located on the side of the block, and they're both wrapped in this heat protection wrap, which is pretty thin, but it's nice that it's included and thought of. The next thing on the top side of this harness, this is your oxygen sensor. So this is going to be for the even side, which is the passenger side of the vehicle. I kind of wish that this also had that same heat wrap on it, just because we do know that this is going to the exhaust and it's going to be going in a hot transmission tunnel, so that would be nice. So because this harness is intended to be used with automatic and manual transmission cars, the only connection that's provided in the harness here is for vehicle speed. So for me, I've got a manual transmission here, and there are no provisions in this harness to actually have the reverse lockout solenoid work. The ECU can be programmed to enable the reverse lockout to trigger when vehicle speed is under a certain speed, but it would require a read flash and it would require a tune, which means that the warranty would most likely be voided. So there are third-party reverse lockout modules that you can buy that are like $100 to $200 that get wired in basically to your vehicle speed and then also trigger the reverse lockout, so that it's easier to go into reverse gear, because by default they actually make it so that it's kind of hard to put it into reverse. You have to kind of force it into reverse so you don't accidentally shift it into reverse trying to go into fifth gear. One thing that I really do like for this harness is the throttle body control here actually has a stainless steel braided sheathing to help prevent noise in the signal, and it has that same sheathing on the throttle pedal connection that's over here. And it actually is grounded. I forget through exactly which of these ground studs here, but through one of these studs, this is a grounded shield, which I do appreciate that they have. So then for this side, we have the engine oil pressure sensor, which is located at the back of the block here. We also have two more ground studs for the back of the cylinder head, the injectors for this side, coil connection for this side, coolant, and then we have the cam sensor here and the MAF here, which the MAF, it's intended to be universal, so it's incredibly long, and it will probably need to be shortened or tied up. For the alternator here, it's a 4-pin connector that only has one wire populated into pin B. There is no resistor in line to this connector. Doing a resistance check on it, it doesn't read anything. But I do want to point out, this is a 22 gauge wire, which is really thin. And with the way that this harness is going to sit, having a single wire into a connector like this, you're going to need some kind of strain relief here. While I'm talking about strain relief here, most of the connections are taped. I did notice that this one here for vehicle speed, for whatever reason, it's just poking through the convolute here, and the sharp edges of the convolute are rubbing against the insulation, and there are actually already marks on the wire. So I'm sure after driving this around, this would be a failure point if this doesn't get addressed. And And then this last section here, this is intended to go back into the firewall and be in the driver's compartment. This connector here is for your drive-by-wire pedal. This is your Obd2 port. And then there's two connections here, the pink wire being your ignition switch, and then the gray wire being a ground trigger for your mill light. All right, that was a lot of talking. Let's get the harness installed in the car. Let's see what it looks like on the engine, and we'll go from there. So I've just loosely got everything installed now. This is by no means the final installation, but I wanted to give you guys an idea of what everything looked like. And you can kind of start to see some of the shortcomings of this solution when it's installed on the car. I mean, I totally understand that this is designed to be a universal fit and application for the car, but like this is for the MAF sensor. And if you look, like, come on, this is ridiculous. Coming off the engine here, we've got like 4 feet of extra harness here, where 98% of LS swaps I've seen just literally have a 90 and then a straight and the MAF right here. So I think I really would have preferred to see them just shorten this right here for what most people do, and then provide a jumper option for people who need 4 feet of harness here. Especially with this being shielded and stuff like that, this would be kind of a pain to shorten. One thing I was surprised with, the oxygen sensors, the harness there is actually long enough to reach my headers. I do have long tube headers. The video for that's really awesome, so if you haven't checked that out, I definitely suggest it because these headers are absolutely killer for this car. And the oxygen sensors actually do connect to the harness as is, which I wasn't sure if they would, just because this is all designed to work with GM's factory cast manifolds, so I figured that the sensors would be pretty close, but they did have that in mind, which is pretty cool. I did need to use the map sensor jumper, which means I just have this set of connections here, which is really ugly and there's no really good place to hide that connection. But this jumper was required for this installation. Throttle body is in there, looks okay. All the injectors and the coil packs look good there. I like that they included P-clips on the backside there, and then all the grounds are connected. I didn't connect the knock sensors yet because I need to rotate them to clear for the headers. But then you can really see the big elephant here, the fuse and relay panel and the ECM. Look how long this section of harness is. Once you actually look at everything installed on the car here, you can kind of travel up and over and then up and around. It's really long. So unless you have like a really big fender that you can hide everything under, you're going to be coiling this up and it's going to be visible. And I don't know, depending on your installation, that might be okay. You might be able to do that. This car, all the fenders here are all sealed, so it'd have to be really creative, or blast some holes through the firewall there to run them inside. So to answer the question from the beginning of the video, is this worth the money? It's really hard to answer because it does a lot of things really well. You know, you're paying a lot of money for this, but you're paying for the warranty. You're paying for OEM manufacturing, OEM testing, all the work that went into developing this system. It's going to work well, and you have a warranty. But there's a lot of things that make me want to void the warranty to this harness and to this system. You know, I want to integrate the reverse lockout to my transmission. That'll void the warranty. If I want my speedometer to be accurate to my tire size and rear end, it's not what it's pre-programmed to, so I need to have it reflashed. That might void the warranty. You know, I want to shorten this MAF harness that is like 3 feet too long. That's going to void the warranty. I have the headers. That'll void the warranty. So for me, it really didn't make much sense to do this. And I really am questioning why I did in the first place. So with so much of this build being a huge challenging piece for me, I had wanted something to be really straightforward, really simple to do. And I had picked this up just thinking, you connect 4 wires and you'll be good to go. And honestly, I probably could, and I'd probably be okay. But with what I'm trying to do and with what I'm doing with you guys, I would really like to do something a little bit better. So honestly, I'm put in a pretty tricky position here because I've already spent the money and I already have this, and it really wouldn't be that hard to finish this installation to call it done. I could mount the ECM, mount the fusion relay box, run fuel lines, wire the starter, wire the ignition, and really that's it. And then I could move on with paint, body, and the rest of the fabrication. But on the other hand, I have been spending a lot of extra effort trying to make this really a special build. This is my first project of this scale, of this nature. I'm trying to make an impression. I want this to make it to SEMA. It would mean the absolute world to me to have this car at SEMA. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. This was a huge information dump, and I know that I talked a lot and I really didn't get a lot of work done. But this is a big part of the build because there's a big decision to make with this on if I'm going to be designing my own harness and doing everything one way, or if I'm going to be integrating this and trying to find all the other solutions to make everything else work the way that I want it to. So figuring this stuff out with the lead times I've been having with everything else I've been trying to order, I want to have an idea of what I'm going to do so I can keep working, so I can keep getting videos to you guys. So let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what you think I should do, and I will see you guys in the next episode.